in 2002. And I began to challenge President Mwanawasa. Say, your fight against corruption must not be ethnic driven. It must not be aimed. It must be driven by alleged crime and evidence. You are persecuting these people. You are persecuting Dr. Chungwa. You have not even investigated. You are seizing his assets. You are seizing his bank accounts. You are harassing him and his officials. And whoever was connected to Dr. Chungwa, if someone visited him, there will be DEC at their premises. So I've been in this space before, and I saw that threats first began by people enticing me, even giving me other senior jobs. Mwamba you are just an administrative assistant. I refused. They scaled it up to now harassment, high-level surveillance against me, poisoning. I was poisoned 3 times in the period of 10 years. So they scaled it up. I've seen this path before. Zach, you'll agree that even when I come here, even if I speak softly and diplomatically, I raise pertinent issues, and I've been very consistent the last 16 months. And I've asked, I've been receiving calls. Mwamba, tone down. No, you are young. You are 7 years. Those divide and rule tactics. And sometimes they even come through families. You stand down, but when they see you are determined on the path you are taking, then they scale up the harassment. But for me, Zach, I rarely talk about myself. I don't want to make myself a subject of discussion. This country has burning issues. Our people are looking to us to speak for them. Yeah. And I will resist to use the platform to defend myself. Our people know who I am. Fair enough. Zach, our people know who I am. Number one, look, first I was a private person. I was a banker, a businessman. By the time I was coming in public limelight in 2002, I already had a car, already had a house in a good area. So for me, even issues of material or even issues of have never come to the fore. You met me maybe in 2003. I was driving a BMW. That's 20 years ago. A good, almost new BMW. I've been working as Deputy Permanent Secretary, and diplomat. So it's not an issue. So I will take my time and I think demonstrate to whichever institution wishes to probe in my life. My life is an open book. So let's go to the burning issues.
But let's do in-house cleanup. First of all, the Patriotic Front. I mean, currently it's got a lot of wrangles, and these wrangles, definitely you can't run away from them, because we've seen these things before, that such wrangles have led to huge political parties getting into factions.
Yeah.
How do you think this is going to affect the party, especially that you are, trying to organize the party by way of putting together a convention?
I'm glad that as soon as I came and I set out my path and that I wanted to work within the Patriotic Front. I was even seeking its leadership as a way to rebrand, rebuild, and give hope to our party. That the leadership immediately embraced me, and since then they've brought me in as a member of the Central Committee, and I'm now an insider, trying to look at the issue of the party. My message has been the same. Why didn't UNIP come back? It mismanaged issues. It mismanaged the former president, Dr. Kaunda. It mismanaged the succeeding leaders from Kebi Msokotwane, to Mr. Nkoma, to whoever took over the party, and the president trying to come back. We saw what happened in 1996, where when there was a constitutional amendment and Dr. Kaunda and the UNIP perceived that he had been banned, they didn't participate in elections. Dr. Kaunda embarked on a program to ban voters' cards. All members of UNIP were encouraged. There used to be huge bonfires at their political rallies. And they boycotted that election. UNIP had 25 MPs. We saw that happen. UNIP has never recovered from that strategic era of leadership, because it was coming from Dr. Kaunda, who could stand against Dr. Kaunda. And Dr. Kaunda, the consortium, even encouraged other political leaders and their members to burn those voters' cards. Those voters' cards were never changed for the next 10 years. You can imagine how UNIP was disadvantaged. You learn lessons from there. Come our colleagues, the MMD, in 2011. My elder brother, Dr. Emmanuel Mwamba, comes from Canada, is vocal, and people quickly trust him with the leadership of the party. But the other factions, the role of the former president, President Rupia Banda, you can see that that role wasn't handled properly. And the MMD spent the entire 10 years in court over leadership wrangles, leadership properties, properties of the party, and the mishandling of the former president, who kept on going either to UPND or in 2015 he came to the PF, and MMD died. I always urge our leaders in the party, can we learn lessons from UNIP and from MMD? Can our process to replace President Edgar Lungu be transparent? Can it be inclusive? Can we ensure that it doesn't disadvantage anyone? And I think that's a spirit I found in the leadership of the party. Everyone has this feeling that we need to be united and resolve whatever leadership wrangle will arise. And then we have the former president, who's a party president of our party, who has a special role to play because he's our former president of the country. We have to ensure that I think we elevate him to a status of a former president, that is not harassed unnecessarily, that constitutional provisions that guard his office are fulfilled. And as party members, I do not expect any member to insult our former president. You are just being disloyal, you are being indisciplined. You do not bring him in an area of disrepute, especially for leaders of the party. So we learn from MMD how they mishandled President Rupia Banda, how probably felt excluded from the process, and the leadership wrangles that emerged with Dr. Stumbeko Msokotwane and then Mutati. You don't want us entangled in that way. So the current issue that has occurred, where our acting president, Honorable Given Luwinda, disciplined one of our senior members, Honorable Mao Sampa, because we've said discipline must be important. You can't have all these voice notes flying around insulting one another. You can't have our members forming factions and insulting one. If it's an Emmanuel Mwamba faction, it insults Dr. Chitalu Chilufya, or Chimba Kambuli's faction, or Mundubile's faction insults whichever. We've said let us demonstrate by us being united. I think you've seen all presidential candidates, we've been moving together in many party programs. That is to instill both discipline and unity among the flock that follow us. So I think there is a heightened awareness that whichever matter arises, including this issue where our dear brother Mao Sampa has taken us to court, for us it's in the issue of rebuilding ourselves. So if he feels aggrieved and he has gone to court, well, the matter is in court. We'll not discuss it in public. We hope that and trust that the court will deal with the matter. But the party's work will not be stopped. The party's leadership will not be disturbed because there is a court process challenging their status. The party's programs should not be disturbed. The party should function. The party is far beyond Emmanuel Mwamba or Given Luwinda or Nixon Chilangwa or Mao Sampa. It's far bigger than anyone.
The fight against corruption, I know that, recently we've seen the head of state, discipline or, crack a whip on a number of, government officials that he feels, they've not performed well, especially, when it comes to corruption. He has cracked a whip. That, to me, I would say he's instilling confidence in the people that indeed he is a no-nonsense president. No,
the cases so far don't inspire confidence. The cases so far, in fact, raise concerns. Let's take the first one, the corruption at Ministry of Health. You have an international contractor who discloses in public and in affidavits and in letters that I hosted the minister. The minister asked for a bribe. The minister said before this document is signed, I should pay this, I should buy this. the contractor, international contractor, has put the details, and the contractor goes to the SEC and writes a letter to the president that your minister is corrupt. I want to do these hospitals, but your minister is asking for a bribe. Who was punished? It was a permanent secretary who signed the contract. But the president has questioned this public information by not just this contractor, but his officials here, the contractor's agency officials in Lusaka, who have also publicly stated and exposed the corruption of the minister. That doesn't inspire confidence. So why aren't we punishing this minister who said to have gotten this bribe? Why is that minister still in office? The Sujilite scandal is another case in point. This Mwamba mine in Chembe district. It came to light last year, exactly last year in February. Their own official, their deputy national youth chairperson, Stephen Chikota, led a band of youths. He says there is a mine owner here who has an exploration license. But this man is not mining manganese. He is mining this rare metal. It's a gemstone, it's highly valued. He said, I have reported, no one is taking action. So Stephen Chikota took it upon himself and stormed the mine. You saw where the state went. They went for him. They didn't go for his grievances that there are ministers involved. You've seen that video. He challenged his own minister in Wapula and other cabinet ministers from Lusaka. He says they are collaborating because this man has an exploration license. He is not supposed to mine. You know the terms and conditions of an exploration license. It's exactly that. It's exploration license. You explore, you find what you think you have, you determine scientifically and geologically that you have adequate mineral find, and you say the recovery can make me money. You make a business case, then you apply for a mining license so that whatever you are mining then can attract taxes. You know, you can employ people and it can be done properly. That's the purpose of that process. But someone has an exploration license and they've been mining. Chikota was arrested. He's still appearing in court for disorderly conduct and causing riotous behavior. No one asked Chikota's assertions that first the mine owner was mining illegally because he just had an exploration license, that the mine owner was collaborating with ministers to extract that rare gemstone and, you know, export it. So how can that inspire confidence when the president, in this case, has fired the 5 officials? This is just what has been happening the last 1 year. What has been happening in the last 1 year? Do we know who's been mad? And for Stephen Chikota was rewarded, I think maybe to shut him up. He was adopted as a council chairperson for Mwense, and he won under the UPND ticket. And probably maybe that's why he's quiet. But when you hear the stories from our people around Mwamba, Chembe, and other officials, you hear a lot of things. Should we commend the president that he has acted very well? For me, no. It would be like the case of the Ministry of Health, where you leave the culprit who has so many allegations, which absolved have not absolved the minister. Then you fire a hapless PS because he signed the contract. Do we know if that PS signed under duress? The latest episode, they impounded a truck in in Central Province, and then the Deputy Permanent Secretary and 5 district commissioners are immediately fired. It looks good. It's a good picture to the members of the public until the details begin to emerge. That first, the mining was done under the supervision of the police. End of January, the police went there. They encircled the area. And for 14 days, 14 nights, they were digging that metal. And now we have information from traditional authorities, from people that live around the area. They said, why has the Central Province impounded one truck? When there were 3 trucks that left here, they were escorted by the police. There was security from the police for those 3 trucks. From the information we have is that the truck that was impounded, the Sino truck, which is was carrying, say, 30-ton truck, but it was carrying 10 ton of the sugilite. 10 tons of sugilite at market value, that gives you $30 million. We don't know what the other 2 trucks were carrying. $30 million is not small money, Zach. You have seen us beg. When donors give us $9 million, they give us $3 million. We even hold ceremonies at Pamosi and Intercontinental. There is $30 million lying in form of these rare gemstone. What about the other 2 trucks? So has the president acted very well? For me, no. He hasn't. Who has levers of power to command the police to secure an area while illegal mining was going on for over 14 days? Who's paying those allowances? Who has provided these vehicles? Troop movement is a very, very serious matter. So who has provided and given authority for the police to move from their stations and transport and secure these trucks all the way to Lusaka?
But you know that such things can happen without the head of state knowing. It's
so
possible.
Who has powers to move the police from province to province? Who gives authority? Because there are resources involved. And to give police security, people have to, first you release guns. There's a process of releasing guns. Then to move from your jurisdiction, Chembe, to another, outside Luapula. In fact, if you're going outside Luapula, further and further authority is required. And you are securing this. If it were not for those gallant UPND members from Luapula and others who went on social media and scandalized the process, first they enlightened us of what it was. You remember there was something similar under PF, where it were the youths of PF.
I was about to
it was the youthful PF guys that went and impounded the truck.
And to the contrary, during your regime, it was worse because you would actually defend those trucks and punish the youths that actually brought the trumpet.
I think that's why Zambians Zambians punish the PF.
And this is the thing, because in this case, at least you have a president who can act.
Well,
in your regime, people went to court in GRZ vehicles.
Well, I don't know about that. But what I can say is
that the confidence levels in this probably regime, with what the president is doing, he's instilling a bit of some confidence in people.
No, it's a PR gimmick. You have to be aware. That's why I'm giving you the facts as they are. It's a PR gimmick, and they never learn. They never learn from the past. The PF lost elections because of things like that, where there was unfairness, where there was injustice, where people abused their offices and some people were protected. You as a new president, would you want to repeat those things? Would you? So they need to learn lessons. So the Sugilite scandal doesn't inspire confidence in the manner that it has been. Some people may commend the president, but we know that this scam has been going on for the last 1 year. People have been profiting from it. People have been smuggling that rare gemstone. They are exporting
it. And for him to act, it's indication enough that he did not know all this time when all this.
There's a fresh one.
Now that he knows, I mean, he's cracked the whip.
There's a fresh one.
And it's also indicating to, it's a lesson to others, obviously.
There's a fresh one.
Which is?
In Mkushe. You saw youths have been protesting, and they accused on record, their own members, that people have been coming here. They say they've been sent by State House. They even mention a sacred name, that of the First Lady. We are waiting. How will the president deal with it? This matter is so serious that I saw the president answered in one of their...
These things common, Mr. Ambassador Mwamba. I mean, you've been in politics for a long time. I mean, we've had people who have gone in the name of the president and solicited funds from businessmen.
Yeah, so for me, I don't discuss rumors. I don't discuss Iwave, I discuss facts. So documents have emerged. Who are the owners of this mine?
The first lady's name is not there.
Just a minute. I don't know if it is not there, but let me explain. So we've demonstrated with documents from PACRA, a government agency, that this mine is associated with actually State House. Because there's a gentleman there, Mr. Nixon Chagwe, currently working at ZESCO. He's grown up in the household of the president. You should see the authority the young man carries, even at ZESCO. So it's not,
how does that make the first lady's mine by that relation?
No. I'm saying it's associated to State House. I've used that word deliberately. If my son is involved into something, they will say the Mwamba family are associated to this issue, because they know that my son could be an independent legal personality, but he also can receive my protection. You know, he also can receive my support. Zaki ngana kweba tumwana wandaesa mkumona, you see him. But tumwana fia yawe ngai mo kwa chalefo kumona zaki. Wala mwe bati nani nisha lefwaya. So you have to recognize the state of influence. Then there are other two senior officials there. And this is our dear brother Gilbert Liswaniso, who's the National Youth Chairperson. And my former boss, you know, Obvious Maliteta was my boss. He was my minister when I was permanent secretary in Western Province. Yeah. You know, he resigned, he joined the UPND. He's a force in UPND. He's Lusaka Province strongman. He's on that list. We are waiting.
He's not entitled as a citizen to be a shareholder?
No, he is. Anyone can own any shares. Don't abuse the law.
These issues blown out of proportion, for example. They are ordinary Zambians. They can
so how did they acquire the mine? Has the power been abused? As the Ministry of Mines abused the power to give them the license? How has it changed ownership? We need to know. How has the ministry given these people high-level UPND? Was there an advert? So you have to trace it, say abuse of. There's nothing wrong with owning shares, with forming companies. That we must be very clear. We don't want owning of property criminalized. We don't want owning of companies criminalized, but don't abuse institutions. So our question will be, how was that given? How was the license given? That's where it's a fresh matter. It's still developing, and we are watching.
Isn't it okay as long as they are not doing it illegally?
If they were given licenses to the disadvantage of other Zambians who are capable, it's an abuse of the law. It's a corrupt act. People can be arrested. They can go to jail for that. Officials, I was permanent secretary for a long time. You cannot abuse the law because you are guided by financial regulations, ethical regulations, the civil services regulations. I can't give you a contract, Zach, because you are just a member of the PF. There are many times people even called, especially when I was in Northern Province, they called President Sata, the Natutana. And they had no idea who I was. You can't pass financial test. If we do an evaluation, you can't do a technical test. Unfortunately, even if you are a senior cadre, I can't give you the contract. Because I'll give you the contract. You go, you eat your money, you give a girlfriend the car, I will go to jail. Because I will have breached all those regulations. So it's not enough that members of the party or cadres, like it is happening on CDF, where it has become a feeding frenzy for the UPND. They were directed to form these cooperatives. All the cooperatives were formed by UPND across all the 156 constituencies. Now it has become a corrupt feeding frenzy against that money. So they will tell you that they are providing desk. But how has that been? Has it been to the exclusion of other members of that community? So corruption remains corruption. So for the issue of Mukushi, it's a matter we are watching, and we hope that the president will crack the whip.
So I'll get back to this. Let's move on to, again, what the UPND are calling, a success. It's another milestone made on the Ndola-Lusaka dual carriageway. Contract signed. It's a PPP agreement and 25 years concession agreement. And of course, it's a construct, maintain, and hand over kind of PPP. This has been long overdue.
Yeah, thank you, Zach. And it's good you've asked about this road. I've been very close to it because in 2019, senior officials from government of South Africa stormed my office. They said, your contract, we have a contract with the Zambian government. They showed me a contract. It's a valid contract. We are in the process of finalizing. First, we've done a feasibility study, an 8-month feasibility study, and DBSA, which is the Development Bank of South Africa, has mobilized the money for this project. But we hear that there's a signing agreement with the Chinese. So it came to my attention when I was High Commissioner in South Africa. I didn't know what was happening even about that road. So when I called Lusaka, I said, I've been shown legal documents. The officials have come from the ministry and the contractor. And they say we enjoy such sister relations. They don't think that they should take the Zambian government to court, but they've demonstrated that they have a valid contract and it has not been revoked. So from then on, I began to track the matter. I began to understand now from government what they were doing. So at least I have some basic history. I just wanted to highlight that. One of the documents that they gave me then was that an evaluation was done by the Road Development Agency that that road will cost about $500 million. That's a net value of that road. There was a feasibility study done to take into account traffic and how much is raised per year. Again, that road raises $100 million a year. We should track the numbers. $100 million a year. There's an RDA report to that effect. And even that's what even motivated the tolling, where toll plazas were constructed to begin to get the money. The interpretation was that, I think, the way government agencies don't speak to one another. So while Ministry of Works and Supply and later, I think, before Ministry of Infrastructure were pursuing this matter, because the matter, I think, must have started in 2013 with this South African company, I think it was Group 5. Zambia had put a list of roads and infrastructure that they wanted funded by China. And they submitted to China, and bilateral engagements began from technical level, ministerial level, and finally to the presidential summit, bilateral summit between the two countries. And China approved the construction of the Lusaka-Ndola dual carriageway and said they were going to fund it under the models that technical persons must work out. So the confusion that arose between the South African company and the presence of a Chinese company was that mishap, where agencies rarely talk to one another, but you're pursuing the same goals. That's very familiar in government. So they said, you clean up the cancellation of the other contract and the assumption of this contract. Why was a road worth $500 million, that was a net evaluation, pegged at $1.2 billion? So they had separated it. They said the road will cost around $700 million because there has to be profit to whoever the concessionaire or whoever will be done over this period. Then they had proposed other activities. Road Development Agency, who were the net negotiator in this matter, said, no, we have a plot, empty plot at Ibex. We have this design, a 5-story building. They put the cost there. Then they said, no, we have these township roads that have to be done in Kawe, kukabwe bala complain. Kuluansha, you know, if you don't go mafia ba Kuluansha, Ndola. So they put 160 kilometers of extra road. Then, you know, if you've been to the Copper Belt, there is a Luansha, the shortcut. Yeah. Instead of going to Ndola, if you're going to Kitwe Chingola or Lubumbashi, there's that shortcut. Yeah. You know, the Fisenge, Luansha, Masangano Road. They said, no, we have to put it. So the extra amount of $500 million came from these extra development, including the two cities to make an industrial city at Chivombo, because Lusaka is clogged. You don't have more land. So they said, we need to develop Chivombo. And at, not Lufanyama, at, when you're going to Ndola, I know, I remember the place, there was going to be another industrial city that is near to Ndola. The Minister of Finance, Margaret Monakatwe, this was, remember, at a bilateral level, the 1.2 billion was literally approved because you have presidential letter from one to the other. It has been organized at bilateral level. Honorable Margaret Monakatwe said, no, I'm negotiating with the IMF. You people want this IMF bailout. They say we scale down on projects. And the projects that have not been completed at 80%, remember there was a cancellation, and the new projects in the pipeline were then removed. But Cabinet said, what we can do about important roads, like Lusaka, Ndola, Joe Carriageway, is to scale it down. If you have amenities worth $500 million, where you want to put an industrial city at Chivombo, you want to do all these township roads of 160 kilometers, you want to do RDA head office, remove them. So $500 million was removed. As of 2019, you saw the announcement by Honorable Doris Leah, was that the road from $1.2 billion was brought at $700 million. And these extra things were said they could be developed later. And that's what Cabinet approved for the contractor then to pursue. What were the scope that was left was that there will be a dual carriageway, 11 meters on each side, up to Ndola. There will be what they call a frontage road. Namwadia Kafue Road. You see there is Kafue Road, but you have those frontage roads where if you are not using Kafue Road, you are going to any of those places, you can use the frontage road. So there was a frontage road from Lusaka to Ndola, other than that 11 meter here, 11 meter here, up to Ndola. There was the Fisenge Luansha Masangano Road. It was to be a dual carriageway as well, with frontage road. And it cost all that, $700 million. What have our colleagues done? They've reduced the scope. First, there will be no frontage road. The actual road has been reduced from 11 meters to 9 meters. So they've eaten away a lane, but it's going to cost around $650 million. What are our concerns? Is they've fronted it as a public-private partnership. Zach, is it? We are demanding that government discloses the details of this build to operate and transfer concession that they've signed. Who is Macro Oceans Consortium? Who are they? Today I saw some write-up where they are saying, no, there are 3 Chinese companies that form Macro Ocean. Again, it raises concern. So then, who are the contractors? Are you going to advertise for the contractors? Because we hear the other so-called, I think there's AVIC that has been put there. There's another private company. Why isn't the process open? And now the talk is that these companies will go and get a loan from China. Our relationship with China at their lowest. We are failing to resolve our debt restructuring program because the main stakeholder there is China. And we've been scandalizing China. We've been hosting US leaders and IMF leaders who are scandalizing China at State House. You cannot then think that you're going to get a loan from China of $600-700 million without patching up all this. So the other information is that they will try to locally source the money, where the Chinese company must enter into an agreement with NAPSA and Workers' Compensation Board Fund. Again, we are saying, that's public money. That's not a public-private partnership. A public-private partnership is very simple, Zach. We have a public road as Zambia. We don't have money for it because we have to deal with social issues. So you are connected. Go and get a loan. Then we'll give you a concession of 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 25 years. So you go and borrow money. What you might require from me is probably a sovereign guarantee, because the banks and financial institutions will not lend you the money. They will say, security, where is the security? You will say, no, I'll build a road, I'll hold it for 25 years. They will say, ngawaluba. Maybe let your government, which owns the property, give us a sovereign guarantee. So that when we give you this $700 million and you disappear to Dubai, we will have someone to call on. So government has to get involved by issuing a sovereign guarantee. The private person then brings the money, hires a contractor, or if it's to build, operate, and transfer, he himself gets contractors and they build. You give them a concession, you have resource sharing portfolio. Either you are sharing some money now, or they'll give you a good road after 25 years, 15 years, 10 years. Where is something wrong with this? Is first they've given a non-entity in this country, Google, Macro Ocean Consortium. It doesn't appear anywhere unless in the speech for Dr. Stumbeko Msokotwane. It doesn't exist. People are saying it has come together. That's why we are saying, give us the details. Who are these people? No, they are Chinese firms. They'll go and borrow from China. You know that won't happen. The deal is a scam. Because some details...
Is it wrong for them if they resorted to borrow locally? I'm now thinking, why are you being critical about if it happens that they get funding from NAPSA, they get...
So you have the Kitwe Chingola Road.
You
have the Kitwe Chingola Dual Carriageway. That was financed by NAPSA. And NAPSA is managing it with the RDA. So why do we need Chinese to go and speak to NAPSA to build the Lusaka Ndola Dual Carriageway? So why are you involving? Do I need these companies associated with UPND to speak to NAPSA? So if NAPSA and our pension funds, because that's public money, that's your money, these are entities created by acts of parliament. Their boards, their executive directors are appointed by government.
But they're also in business.
This is public money. That's not a PPP model.
But they've been doing this. They've been in business for a long time. NAPSA, for example, has been doing business. They've been getting into viable business. Like
so
they've built malls where they felt they can invest public money, and grow it. And if they find this road viable, profitable, why would they not invest?
So give NAPSA, like we did the Chingola, Kitwe Chingola Dual Carriageway. The only other entities are RDA. So why do you want this group of Chinese who will be collecting toll fees and user fees? No. They'll be collecting toll fees and user fees for 25 years. I told you, this road is $100 million a year. That's a revenue. So you're going to give people who run the road for 25 years. That gives you $2.5 billion. They will put in 600 million. Their children and their children's children will retire happily thereafter. They will don't know, even their children from 100 years from now do not need to work. If the program you want to involve NAPSA, you are sending Chinese to go to NAPSA, it is not fair. Give NAPSA directly. There are many Zambians like you, Zach, then who should be involved. So if you look at the list of macro ocean because it doesn't exist anywhere. If you look at that consortium, the companies associated there. Let's just go to NAPSA. If you want to go to NAPSA, don't steal, don't raid the funds of NAPSA, where NAPSA is made to pay these companies to build the roads, and then the companies begin to collect $100 million a year for the next 25 years. Even if you have no loyalty to your country, This is a scam. It's a scandal. From the little details we have so far, to justify this, we are calling on government to immediately disclose the details of this concession agreement. Who is a concessionaire? Who will be collecting the toll fees? Who will finance this project? Are you borrowing from NAPSA, from Workers' Compensation Fund? Are you borrowing from our local banks? Can we know? We need to understand. And don't give us this for us to chase the wind, that no, look at the Chinese companies that are involved. These are big Chinese companies in China. We want to equalize. For now, Zambians must know anything to do with China until we repair our relations. We are diplomats. They will not tell you that we have bad relations. They will not tell you that, they'll tell you that Zambia and China have all weather friends, but nothing is happening.
Isn't it gratifying that this is the same company that, you know, even the PF government used for a number of roads? I mean, Avic is well known, and they've been around for quite a long time. Both governments are okay with them doing roads.
So the models was never a PPP. The models were that government were doing this infrastructure. We hire any contractor, they do their job, we assess their work, they leave. It becomes a public property, it's our property.
This is the same company that
so the airport, the international
trusted.
Yeah.
In most of infrastructure.
The contracting process is totally different. I have the money, I have the loan. You have capacity, build the international airport for me. It's my airport. Up to now, you won't see anyone charging you for using Kenneth Kaunda International Airport. It's a public property belonging to the people of Zambia through government. Here, as soon as you hear public-private partnership, it means a private person will look for money, build the road, and collect user fees and toll fees for the next 25 years. This is a road that ends this country $100 million a year. If you have that guaranteed funding, are you
not mistaking it for 100 million kwacha?
No.
Because the information I have is that this is actually what National Road Fund collects is 100 million kwacha per year. And
so I'm basing my information on the document that was done by RDA when an assessment was done, when you are projecting it, because you need to show return of income of how the road can pay for itself. So there was a projection.
So yours is in projection.
Yes.
It's an issue of should we, because
if they are collecting,
if currently they are collecting 100 million kwacha per year on a single, road, and duo makes it even double in terms of collection. Probably that's what they mean.
No, it's a traffic that matters. It's traffic.
But then it means that projection are basically in anticipation.
Yeah. The first fee is very little. We pay 20 kwacha. It's very little fee. But if you have to make it commercial, as soon as you bring a private person, they'll relate it to the loan they've gotten and what they need. They'll project figures they can raise in a year to pay back the loan and to have profit on top of it. So RDA can publish their earlier assessment that was done in 2015. It will show you the projection that this is $100 million road per year. That's a projection. If you are charging commercial fees, commercial utility fees for it, the user fees, $100 million a year. So why do you want to give away money they will raise in 5 years and for the next 20 years, Bakuladia, there'll be people that will be rich in...
This is not the only road under PPP. There are several others. And a number that I know are probably going to be done. Actually, they will be done by Zambians. Isn't that gratifying that we've got Zambians who are actually, participating in this PPP?
I lived in South Africa, where most of the highways are tolled. There's a concession, maybe of 25 years by the private sector. So let me make it very clear. I'm not against PPPs, but PPPs should be PPPs. Don't raid the pension fund and you call it PPPs. You mask it. You put Chinese firms, you put your own firms there, then you send them to NAPSA. Why don't you do the Chingola Kitwe dual carriageway?
Do you have evidence that NAPSA has been approached for this?
No, the minister, we should be very clear. The minister says he's giving a period of 6 months for these entities, whoever they've signed with,
to
go out and raise money.
Right.
We saw various models, especially at tender stage. Each one was submitting. No, us who got to NAPSA, who got to workers' compensation, who got to China. So we know the various models that have been submitted. And for me, I just want to rule out the issue and reliance on China. That please, we want to call it a fairly changer. Ababa Nensu, when Avalanda Nabasungu Wako America, Tawate Mama Chinese, the president has not visited China since he came in office. It's 18 months. You know, here, the ministers of foreign affairs under G20 are meeting. We've dispatched a team to try to speak to the Chinese group there so that our debt can be restructured. But China, they are very clear. You want us to cancel the debt or restructure it. Ngaba IMF, ngaba World Bank, ngaba ADB, ngaba never Eurobond. Why are you putting and placing the burden on us alone? Yes, we enjoy a good relation with Zambia. But can debt treatment be fair to all of us? Can you treat us equally? Don't pressure me as China to cancel Zambia's debt. I'm only owning 30% of the debt. What about the people that owe the 70% debt? Why don't you? They also cancel. Can we see the same pressure to them? And China has legitimate question. But you and I was a diplomat at very senior level, at AU, and in South Africa, one of the largest missions in the world. Diplomats, we don't speak directly. I'm speaking like this because now I'm a politician. But you can see China is aggrieved. Like I said, you have the Minister of Finance, the U.S. Treasury Secretary, because that's a Minister of Finance for the U.S. government. They call, there are secretaries there. He's in Zambia, he condemns China at State House. I recently posted a video where, Germany and Namibia have these strong relations from the past, colonized by Germany. A German minister comes and is complaining about the population of Chinese in Namibia. The president of Namibia, Gengob, immediately stopped the minister in his tracks. Stop talking about China and the Chinese nation. It's not your problem. You here, you killed our people, massacred our people. Don't pretend that you are a good corporate or sister republic. He was very categorical. And what has China done? China is giving us free money, no conditions. You want a list of things that we shouldn't do. The minister, that's what I expected President Hakainde Hichilema to do. When the Minister of Finance from America started scandalizing China, he should have said, with due respect, Honorable Minister, with due respect, Secretary to Treasury, please leave out our relation with China. We have historical relations. We are good together. Our relations stretch from the 70s, from the 60s. We work together, not just with us, but with the entire region. You, America, also a good friend of ours. You give us up to $500 million a year in bilateral support. We don't want to injure you either, but can we leave the other party out? But he took glory in China being scandalized and being blamed for derailing the IMF program. As if that was not enough. The Kristalina Georgieva, the IMF managing director, 2 days later repeats the same assertions. And there has never been a rebuttal from government. There has never been a strong statement against those remarks by those 2 senior persons of the world. How does China feel? How do their relations feel? So for me, I think if Andola Lusaka Jokare Juatwaka Pokendalama China, you want to acquire Savela Mivepa. They are targeting NAPSA. That's public funds. If they are targeting NAPSA, Bafumi Nipo won't say, can Ministry of Finance just call it? That's its own department. Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Labor run.
Want it to be profitable for NAPSA if they...
It will be.
And money will be in Zambia?
Oh, yeah, it will be in Zambia.
Isn't that a great thing?
It would be a very great thing. But in this process, the concessionaire, that's why even ministers, none of the 4 ministers who spoke even reviewed the concessionaire who they've given. None of those people, none of the media have disclosed who signed Have you seen that document? Maybe Zach, you as a journalist.
But no,
who signed?
I haven't seen it.
Kaimwaneshita reported that concession has been signed. So who did government sign with?
We were hoping it would be disclosed or made public.
But at Macro Ocean Shan Consortium, when you go to Pakra, they don't exist. So who has government signed with? I expected journalists to probe them. Oh, okay, is Macro Consortium registered? When did they register? Maybe they registered last week. We don't know. Or maybe they registered at tender process. So there are gray areas. It's imperative that before rumors take over, before false perceptions take over, can they show us this concession agreement? We want to know what it is proposing. Who will finance the Lusaka-Ndola dual carriageway? We want to know who will run it for that period of 25 years. We want to know from the projection so far how much that road will be raising per year, so that our people can understand that this is a fair investment. I've been in this game for a long time. People use your need for corruption. COVID crisis. How many ministers of health were arrested in Africa? So they use a crisis to benefit from your crisis. You want a vaccine, but you want a mask. People use that to profit from them. On the last count I did, I think over 17 ministers of health were arrested in Africa. So we have a crisis of the Ndola-Lusaka dual carriageway. There is a genuine need to do that road as soon as possible. The cartels and the crooks have descended there. And we have a duty to speak out and demand for these answers. The demand for a good road is genuine. The traffic is growing. You do not need to have the traffic we have at Kasumbalesa up to Kitwe. 45-kilometer stretch. People on the queue for for 2 weeks. You can imagine the turnaround if you run trucks. That means your turnaround is supposed to be 3-4 days, but you are doing one trip to Lusaka or to Lubumbashi a month. That's huge loss to you as a company owner. You have trucks from South Africa or from Tanzania which are running, and when they go to Zambia, they take one. Because the turnaround is supposed to be 4 days. Your truck is back, you dispatch again, and it's profitable. So we clearly need a road, but we don't need the crooks.
Your takeaway from the State of the Nation address? Just a few takeaways. Yeah,
thank you very much. We were grieved by the remarks by the President, where when he talked about the economic and financial crimes, he said the process is complete. The court has been set up, they are dedicated magistrate, and he says within 90 days, you will see results. Now, that's a breach of independence and autonomy of the judiciary. That's breach and disrespect to the courts of law. The president is an executive. He doesn't interfere in the process of the judiciary. It is not in his space to determine or pace cases as he's determining the 90 days. He is breaching the due process of the law, the independence of the courts, and these people that are being arraigned before courts are then just going there for mere confirmation of an injustice. So those remarks were out of place. We've condemned them.
It could be, let me imagine something. It could be, in consultation with the Ministry of Justice, the Chief Justice, who probably have complained that, they're understaffed and they need more judges. It's like, okay, so fine. If I provide more judges, if I make available enough manpower, for example, on financial crimes, fast track court, how many months are you giving me that with all this that you are asking for is given? How long will these cases be? Guaranteed, Your Excellency, 3 months, 90 days. We will be able, with what we need, we should be able to, deal with these cases. And he's got that information, and he comes and addresses the nation, and he says it, based
Zach,
on assurance.
do you know how many people are
wrong?
Yeah, do you know how many people are in remand prison? I think we discussed this matter extensively when they were not bringing Mumbipiri to court. And did you see the justification from the Minister of Justice? He says Mumbipiri's case is not the only one. The others, she's only there 1 year, 5 months, 8 months. The others had been there 5 years without appearing in court. So you have arson cases, murder cases. I feel especially for juveniles and women who are usually locked up. Sometimes 2, 3 children. You even wonder who impregnates those women. But he 4 or 5 years have not appeared in court. The foreign nationals that are imprisoned for illegal, stay in the country, their problem is just illegal stay. They are in prison 3, 4, 5 years because the repatriation costs associated with that to repatriate someone back to Ethiopia or to repatriate someone from Senegal is extremely expensive, and government doesn't have those monies. I remember that I myself would beg and coordinate with Ministry of Home Affairs and with Ministry of with UNICEF to fund UNHCR, to fund those foreign nationals who literally are like because no one sees them. Their clothes are done and torn, and so there are many people waiting for justice. It's just not those alleged for crimes. I'm aware that Honorable Bowman Lusambo has challenged the constitutionality of the creation of the economic and financial crimes. He has submitted that this is an abuse of the judiciary, and he has given his reasons, and we'll be keenly following that case. We know that the Chief Justice can create any division court, but we don't know that if he can then lower it down to the magistrate. So the entire issue of the Economic and Financial Crimes Court is under question. The president wants to use the fight against corruption for his own political mileage, that is fighting corruption. It is in his interest that Bakaka cover more. Because when he's campaigning in 2026, he'll be saying, "Namona, barika kana cheat, ndebo mbaine wakabola lava na riba kaka." So it's not driven by justice.
And you're probably on that list.
How? Tafia kabombe, Jack. Tafia kabombe. So, but the point is, justice has to be seen to be done. It has to be delivered. It doesn't have to be selective in the manner that they're pursuing it. We thought the Economic and Financial Crimes Court was set up by the Chief Justice. But apparently from the talk, it looks like it's the president that set it up. Does he have those powers? No, he doesn't. So those remarks were a bit unfortunate on the State of the Nation address. That address, in fact, we need to correct it, Zach. It's not a State of the Nation address. It has a clear role. The Constitution spells it out. It's for principles of national values. Right. That's the purpose of it. Morals have been declining so much. Moral depravity has cropped up that our drafters of the Constitution determined that the president must report to the country what he is doing and the progress he's making to fight these issues around values, national values, and principles. So we expect the president to be strong. For example, the rise of homosexuality in this country, despite the laws, it's being thrown in your face. Our people are watching these gay people on Facebook. They are glamorizing the lifestyle as if it is normal. You saw what happened at the Lusaka July, a nice fashion show that Zambians love. Lusaka people love it. It's like the Durban July. It's like it was hijacked by an LGBT agenda. We expect condemnation. If you have workers, Jack, and they go home every day, there's something they all say. They have to knock off early because of the rise of junkies in townships. Kanshinga wako for late 19 hours. You have a uma. They are killing people. They are hitting people just for your phone or the loaf of bread that you've carried. There is a huge criminal conduct by so-called junkies that has risen from Kashito Balej Tawaku DEC. why they haven't kept this. There is literally an outbreak of drugs in Lusaka. Who's attending to that? Why have we allowed drug proliferation to be in the manner that it is? That it's now brought this second wave of crimes in townships. I expected the president to dwell so much on that and secure our people and to appeal to that DEC, direct it to stop the huge proliferation of these drugs. The alcohol abuse that is occurring in townships, where we are literally losing a generation of young people. I expected the president to dwell so much on that.
This is the Thursday edition of the burning issue here on 5FM Radio. My guest is Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, who is the Patriotic Front presidential hopeful. We've discussed quite a number of burning issues, and it's that time when we allow you, our listeners as well, to participate and interact in the discussions that we've so far talked about. And we will be grateful if you can tell us where you are calling us from, your name and where you're calling us from, and please, if it's possible, stick to a minute or less so that you make your point clear and we move on. So a quick reminder also that we are live on our partner radio stations, and these are Iwave FM Radio in Chingola, covering the rest of the Copper Belt, Muchinga Radio in Chinsali, covering Muchinga Province. In Kabwe, we are live on Spice FM Radio 91.1, covering the rest of Central Province, and in Mazabuka, we are live on Iwave FM Radio 98.7, covering the rest of Southern Province. So we'll take our first call. Good morning.
Good morning, boss. How are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you today?
Kanabe sabalishani.
Mkwalenga, please go ahead, under a minute.
Watwebere mumachi ya convention itamwelanda bali nibirenja lama mulero lesha batinga twabera twapiye kuli bakabwala muleka nakite bakabwala inda amesho bamibire mugambamba kisha bombe twebe niya mukayalisa convention twebe date ya convention nga twamye bati abantu aba mulejingana na bena makuru muleka lukwa timofesu mulawe na given rubita mudabale bato mulandi wakwe batindalama. You know, big sticker. Les sala leta pagwela. Les sala leta palwele le vamos. Imakuti mwele wana mfisa mai dofine inda la mashairi kuita. Tamuliranda pa convention ya kama amboku la ndeli ya chama mai. Ndeli ya chidieno lekele jibali.
Thank you. Thank you, Ramalenga. Thank you, Ramalenga, for your call. We appreciate. Call us on 0955-221515 if you'd like to be a part of this conversation. Once again, tell us your name and where you're calling us from, and quickly ask your question within a minute. Good morning.
Yes,
good morning.
Put volume for the audience.
Good morning, Mr. Chilonda. Please quickly go ahead.
Yes, morning, comrade.
Mr. Chilonda, good morning, sir.
You are explained very well, but what we are missing a point of correction is that on our economy and the debt, we are aware that China is helping us to cancellation debt, but China cannot grow economy in our country or in Africa. What you are saying that to cancel the debt, like China still around that Zambia, Why combine donation to our worship? But what are you going to give us so that we cancel your debt? Now, why I'm saying this, China is good in construction, yes, building, construction to do it, but economy has never helped any country to grow economy, even the rest of the world. But it's competing with America. I consider made in China, But take up to connect the US dollar. So now the point what I'm trying to say, I can give you an example what happened. You know, when can the sanctions Zimbabwe? China, Russia, Iran, they say, I can marry Abo. What happened? We saw Zimbabwe come and selling seats here. And even Zimbabwean dollar were bankrupt, buying a bread at $1 Zimbabwean dollar because of Westerners. So let us work together, China and also Westerners work together. But let us work together. But that China can never grow economy in the country, but they work hard together.
Thank you.
Before I go, that the dollar college way, yes, started by the PF, but still going on. We had in Juba, we had the Phoenix contractors, we have Katima contractors, and now Africa is here. These are contractors who are contracting here. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chilonda, for that. Let me take one more call, and we have you respond to them. Good morning. Okay, your name and where are you calling us from?
Good morning, my brother.
I didn't get your name. Lawrence, please go ahead.
Every time someone is on radio or you call something, I rush to read or to listen to him. Because what comes out of his mouth is wisdom, is data. No wonder the UK are very to compete with him. All they can do is to use the institutions of government, to put a restriction without thinking that they'll shut him down. But I know that those that come from American school of politics are now tempted by these maneuvers by the UK using institutions of governance, to threaten the opposition. Mr. Mwamba, if so, God is see you through. All these things will come to an end. Starting to come back to Zambia. Independence of autonomy and institutions of governance will come back after 2026. Okay. Now, coming to the issue of corruption. Corruption is truly community. Corruption is all over the place. In the mind of corruption. Now they're sharing our minds. They're sharing our mineral resources. Okay? Society is growing. Okay? Someone knows that the poor started yesterday who said that the secretariat who they own a mine. How they get only to that mine? Or to the mine, what happened? Because that mine belongs to people of Zambia. This is what we call corruption. And for me, I feel like the president has no more right. I talk about corruption or fight corruption. Because the corruption in this land can stop. Okay? Talk about the 50 years times of scandal. Did the president take action? The answer is no. Okay? That guy is doing business with government today. So what corruption is he fighting? Look at the issue of the economy. There's one of 50 quarters a million. Kulibere, Manaiti ya Dula, Soseba Dula. What kind of guys are going to be popular? And not what they come, they found and remember what about the majority of Zambians? Okay? Today give a lot contract 25 years. I think I'm told this by Gate, but Uno Marot is put 60 toll gate. Where was with Zambia? What was with Africa? To think like that. Okay? They're talking about I don't say money. The court is a public private partnership. Please, but the NAFTA is not today. I contribute to NAFTA. Why is NAFTA taking my money and to a private investor? What is my gain? I'm not a contributor. This is a question that we Zambians should ask this government. Okay? Today I've given me a tourist visa to criminals from Afghanistan in our own country. Where is patriotism? Where is love for this nation? Where is this? I don't understand what's with Zambia today. Okay? Today consecutively. You want to tax the food takers, people that are cycling, people that have participated in different exclusions. Today you want to tax them, and then you give incentives to the mind. Where is our patriotism? Where's the dignity we're talking about? Where's the distance we're talking about here? We're talking about the values, but the mayors are getting dragged when the politics are fighting each other. They're going to talk about the values. Just trying to be inviting these people. Okay? The mayors want the politics are fighting over at the house. People are making decisions about it. They're fighting like a pack.
Thank you. Thank you, Lawrence. Your time is up. Thank you. Great. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. I'll allow you to respond to those calls and see which ones you would like to pick up.
Thank you, Zach. And quickly, let me start with Mr. Lawrence from Chilanga. Is right. There is literally an outbreak of corruption in the New Dawn government and in the UPND. I just demonstrated that, for example, CDF has become a feeding frenzy. It's like that's why they've tasked these cooperatives. That's why they were forming these cooperatives. You saw a small house that probably should cost 100,000 kwacha in a police post in is it Lundazi or Lumezi? The picture is trending, which was procured at 575,000 kwacha. So CDF is a looting exercise for the UPND. That's why they refer them. Form a cooperative, go to CDF, because CDF is a new looting frenzy. So Lawrence is right. The economy really is like we haven't even spent time to discuss the economy. We have the highest cost of living in living memory, literally in living memory. You have a runaway exchange rate. Between just 3 months, it has jumped from 16, now it is at over 20. We an import-oriented country, and if our exchange rate is at unstable, and it's now at 20 plus kwacha, our imports will be very, very high. You have the highest fuel we've ever charged. Fuel is now at 28 kwacha and 29 kwacha. They found it at 17 kwacha. How will our people survive? How will their wages that remain static, how will they overcome this crisis? So he's right, probably we should spend time. He referred to a matter that I raised it on my page. 22 Afghanis that were brought into Zambia secretly. And I even called out, because there were 2 organizations that were coordinating for these. There's Brentes Foundation that is associated with State House, and there is an American firm, a foundation. The South African government rejected these 22 Afghans. They came to Zambia, then they went to Zimbabwe, then they tried to smuggle them across the border and obtained a court order. I'm told a court order has now been granted, and the 22 Afghans will be going back to South Africa. The concern by South Africa is that we don't want this Taliban fight with the Americans to be extended to our land. So if you have an institution that is associated with our State House here, it's the one that's trafficking these people. Because remember, the US government was in Kabul in Afghanistan for a period of 20 years. And they are people they worked with in the last 20 years, and their lives are threatened. No boy issue for the Americans, and they have to take them to America. But of course, America is a bit rigid. They just don't bring you in. There's a screening process. America should handle that crisis on their own. Zambia should not be involved. We shouldn't raise the risk profile of our country in that fashion. It's an American problem. Let it be resolved by America. The largest military giant in Africa is Egypt, South Africa, and Nigeria. If South Africa is threatened by these 22 Afghans coming into South Africa, what about if we want to Wakwalesa? What's the size of our army? What's the size of our technical capacity we want to Wakwalesa? So why would you deliberately risk the profile of this country? By allowing entities that associate with you, with State House, to be involved in this matter. They bring these 22 people here, and South Africa rejects them. I know these technical issues may not touch our people really, but these are serious issues. Mozambique, a very peaceful country, now is fighting with military jihadists. Of course, there we know because they discovered billions of dollars worth of gas and gas reserves. But you don't want to raise a risk profile. So Lawrence touched on these 22 Afghans. I wish our media could put a spotlight to it. It's very serious. It's a matter that has capacity to destabilize our country, and we can lose our peace credentials, our peace dividends that we have. Bachilonda, I think he doesn't understand who China is. He doesn't know the relationship Zambia has had with China. He doesn't know that China, as a poor country, built the largest infrastructure at a time for Zambia, the Tazara, 1,700, almost 1,800 kilometers of road. Tanzania. You know, China had to import. It had no capacity, didn't even have the technology. They had to import from Europe the machinery they were using for Tazara. Tazara cost billions of dollars. At the time, it cost $460 million in 1970. And when they finished by 1975, I think the cost had escalated. Tazama, Mulungushi International Conference, all these were made before. No loan. We have not repaid any of those loans. Bachilonda. So Tamwaishi China, I will just urge you to just take time. Just even use Google. Google is free. Just Google China, Zambia. You will see what the people of China and the sacrifices they've made for our country. Recently, we've built roads, bridges, airports. We've built schools, hospitals, thanks to China. Yes, it's a loan. Yes, we got loans, but it's China. No one else was willing to give us these monies. Wamulenga, voice of Luapula, he always chides me. But he's my older brother. Tine imbuto nsangwa na show yo shari bola so that I should leave them. No. Wamulenga, there are things we are doing, and all the people that you accuse of bad seeds, no one has been convicted in a court of law. I think let's not rush to judge people just because they are accused. Until there is evidence, until a competent court of law judges them, then we can come and agree with you. He says I should concentrate on the convention. And I think if you come chalo, you know, it's like you have a sister who's delayed to get married. The following day takulaisa kono kuisata. Wala mkunjipusha ilia question ilia wepusha chila bushku. You miss out on a lot of things. So Wamulenga, let me speak. The country is literally a fire. Our people are facing the worst period in their lives. The economy is far worse than the UPND found it. The proposed solutions to rescue this country are not working because it's two things: IMF bailout and investment, foreign direct investment, and the two are not working. They are 2 years into office and now they're engaged in corruption. The president is engaged in wasteful expenditure. How does he hire private planes to go to Namibia? How does he hire private planes to go to Ethiopia? Why? I ask the question, why?
Let me bring this point to you. I mean, you and Oliver Shalala have had quite an interesting debate on social media almost all the time, and I've followed your conversations keenly. He's bringing up one here which could be of your interest, and Oliver Shalala is UPND research specialist. He says on the issue of
when did he leave the PF?
Oh, has it been? So
he's a dear friend of mine. Please read out.
Ocean investment.
Yeah.
If you would like to know, is that he says, or maybe also before I read Shalala's comment, I have the DBZ body chair in Mr. Noah Nkoma.
Oh, yes, my dear brother.
Who probably would like to talk to you about.
Yes, please bring him on.
Let's hear him. Mr. Nkoma, welcome to the program, and thanks for tuning in and for following the conversation.
Thank you so much, Zach, and good morning, my dear brother.
Thank you very much.
I've been following your discussion, and I think it deserves some response. And I'll be very brief, taking into account that I'm not the only caller. And I'll start from one. You talked about the economy. Emmanuel, let us just be honest with ourselves. How has the country found itself in the current state? It's the PF doing which has put this country in the current economic state. And there was no magic which even PF could have done had they retained power in 2021. And I think, Emmanuel, you are a very reasonable person, but you agree. First of all, let's talk about the IMF. How many attempts did the PF make to get an IMF bailout? If you are saying that the solution was with China, why didn't China, who you made us believe that when good books with us PF administration refused or failed to come to your rescue? You were looking to IMF. Very sympathetic at that time, Minister of Finance. At a public discussion of the ESZ, he said to us how many times he had knocked on the doors of the IMF. The same with Wadenga. The same with Margaret Manakato. So please, the mess that we are currently having as a country is as a consequence of gross mismanagement of the economy by the PF. Talking about macro ocean investment, first of all, I sit on the PPP Council of Ministers, and I know what it took to reach a stage whereby we had to award that concession to macro ocean investment. First of all, the country is bankrupt. There was no money, there's no money. You cannot do infrastructure projects at the rate of contracting further debt because Zambia's debt profile is in default. So when we are engaging our people, let us be honest with the fact that there's a history behind this. So I think maybe, Zaki, give me a forum where I and Emmanuel can challenge each other on the issues that he has raised. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Noah, for calling in on that one. And Mr. Noah Nkoma is the...
I think Mr. Noah Nkoma is far senior than... he's far senior. Yeah, he's far senior than Oliver. Oliver, has no position in the UPND. And like I said, I don't even know that is UPND.
But would you like me to
yeah, we will.
Quickly?
But can we first deal with the issues?
Because it's on the same issue, and I would want
or it will enrich the...
Yes,
okay, please.
Because he says Macro Ocean Investment Consortium is a special purpose vehicle made specifically to pool resources, skills, and experience together and execute the Dollar Lusaka dual carriageway.
Okay.
So you, Emmanuel Mwamba, should not actually expect to find it on Google, first of all, from other projects. Then Macro Ocean Investment Consortium is made up of a number of companies. Avic International Project Engineering Company, Zhangjiang Communications Construction Group Company Limited, and China Railway 7 Group Company Limited. These Chinese companies won an open tender which anyone, including yourself, Mr. Mwamba, could actually have bid in. So Macro has 6 months to mobilize financing. For now, there is interest to finance from Chinese government. Chinese fund managers, NAPSA, Workers' Compensation Fund Control Board, and Stanbic. But apart from Chinese, no Zambian entity has already signed up and committed funds. The breakdown of the 25 years is 3 years or 36 months delivery of the full construction of the road and 22 years concession period from operation and maintenance. Chinese financing is confirmed, and Zambia and China's relationship is very strong. Government will equally get some of the toll fees throughout the 25 years. Further, the cost is great. And he's saying the days of charging GRZ $1.2 million per kilometer.
1.2 billion. Or 1.2 million.
Kilometer of bituminous road is long gone. And he says that, Honorable Charles Milupi stated also that sharing model is actually embedded in the model of this project. If NAPSA lends Macro Ocean Investments Consortium it will be a loan. And as payments from the toll fees will be done as per loan agreement to be signed, and actually all toll fees will be done as per loan agreement to be signed at the time.
Zach, we may not have time. I think we've gotten the view of. I want to spend time on Mr. Noyo Nkoma. Noyo Nkoma is very senior. He's a senior economist in this country. He's currently DBZ chair, and like he states, he sits on the PPP Council.
Right.
So I want to spend time there. But let me quickly. You will understand why I was dismissing Oliver Shalala. He says you can't find this ocean whatever on Google or anywhere because it's a special purpose vehicle. News to Oliver. The Iteji power station is a special purpose vehicle between ZESCO and Tata, Zambia, and they run the power station in Iteji. Mamba Collieries is a special purpose vehicle owned by ZCCM-IH and a Singapore company. You find it everywhere. So first, that's why I wanted to dismiss Oliver, because this information is a bit poor. He says there are good relations with China and Zambia. We want to acquire. I think I belabored the point. There have been over 3 senior statements from Beijing in relation to Zambia and the US. 3 major statements. We are 196 nations. And why is Zambia spending, and why is China issuing these statements on Zambia and the other remarks? So, well, again, that's why, Oliver needs a lot of time to understand. Sharing models, NAPSA, and that they'll get a loan from China, like I said, look, it's a non-starter. You need to repair the relationship. Oliver, spend time at State House. Tell the president to visit China. Even this year, 2-3 times. He will resolve the debt issue. He will have the Lusaka Ndola Joe Carriageway financed. But if we allow people to insult China at State House, it won't happen. So let me spend time on Mr. Noyo Nkoma. He says the disaster was created by the PF. The debt was left by the PF. Granted, I think Zambians made a decision. PF, where you are taking us, you're not taking us well. They voted for Mr. Fix-It. Mr. Fix-It at the timeline. He says by 14 hours I'll do this. By 30 days I'll do this. By 90 days I'll do this. Honorable Noyo Nkoma, it's been 18 months. The IMF bailout, other than the staff level agreement that was done, other than the approval that we got, is nowhere. There's no disbursement that has been done. I am aware that there was 188 million that was released. But they've used World Bank. World Bank has released another loan. It's a loan, $750 million, to try to cushion this crisis in the absence of the IMF. The PF recognized that we had a crisis, we had a debt crisis. Remember, Honorable Noyo Nkoma, as an economist, that we hired Lazard. We didn't surrender this process to the IMF. We hired Lazard to restructure our debt. Speak to Eurobond holders, speak to China. See how, because there were bullet payments that were due in 2022, 2024, and 2025. So Lazard was tasked to resolve these issues. We had an economic recovery plan. I have not seen an economic recovery plan from the UPND, from President Hakainde Hichilema, from the Ministry of Finance. There is no economic recovery plan. Every time you raise this issue, they refer you to the 8th National Development Plan. It was our document. They found it at final draft stage. Literally word for word, there had been little changes. But for us, the 8th National Development Plan was coming with an economic recovery plan. I have no document to understand where they are going. All I see is that their solutions is IMF and foreign direct investment. I haven't seen how we will recover from this crisis. We've lost, the cost of living, highest we've ever faced in this country. Because your proposed solutions are not solutions. You have domestic revenue, domestic resources you have neglected to raise. You have given tax holidays, Mr. Noyo Nkoma. to First Quantum Minerals and other mining companies. You have failed to resolve the crisis at Mopani and KCM. This has taken a huge toll to the economy on the Copper Belt. He says we are literally bankrupt and that we cannot support infrastructure from the pace. I beg to differ and differ substantially. We may be debt distressed, but we are not bankrupt at all. We know what our GDP is. We know our public debt ratio to our GDP. We know that we can raise money in this country. Honorable Noah Nkoma, I'll refer you to various international reports from Oxfam and others that have said Zambia is losing up to $3 billion in this, illicit externalization of money. Because you have corporates that are not paying proper taxes, they are cheating on taxes. You have mines that collaborate with politicians and then agree to not pay taxes. You have all these concessions in the name of investment. So the loss of revenue. You have Sujilite. If it's $30 million, we want to acquire not a camping of a pula. We mine for the next 6 months. We raise money and pay our debt. What are we doing with our emerald? We are the largest producer of emerald in the world. Our mine is the largest emerald mine in the world. What are we doing with that? In Africa, we have the largest mine. The copper mine is in Zambia, in Africa. So for me, your solutions to the IMF and foreign direct investment will not yield the results because you are relying on external factors to resolve a local problem. We have a local problem. Let's look at our resources and also this abuse of resources, Honorable Noah Nkoma. We owe Mwamba Collieries Power Station about $500 million. You've gone into negotiations. You have paid $300 million to Mwamba Collieries. How much does KCM and Mopani need to ramp up production and begin exports and bring revenue to this country? Those two mines belong to Zambia. They are in government hand. You can even determine the revenue stream for our country from those mines. How much do they know? Why do you think an investor should come? Why do you think Vedanta should come and run your mines? Vedanta, by the way, who's broke? They are being reported in international credible press how literally they are bankrupt. They have a huge bill of $2.1 billion due. But imwebozeko mule tukila na mweba sambidila mlefa Vedanta mumubweshe. He will use the assets of KCM and use it to borrow and clear his debt, his international debt. Why can't we be loyal for once? Honorable Noah Nkoma has challenged me to a debate. We want to acquire ZNBC, they looks to Aisa. Honorable Noah Nkoma, I'm ready. Wewe ni wa ZNBC, they're under your power, but peleko 2 hours. Let's come and discuss. Nawezaki.
Nishmalaila was ZNBC.
Nawezaki.
This story started from here.
Nawezaki. Tuwewe tukagwelepa Tuesday. Let's advertise me and Honorable Noah Nkoma. By the way, he's a dear friend of mine. I think he's one of the best politicians in this country. He's extremely polite. You know, sometimes if you misspeak, you say your statistics wrong. Noah Nkoma would call you. You were right about your point, but you were wrong with the statistics he will provide. He's not someone I would like to even bring any disrepute to his character. This is a noble man, and I respect him. That I have to put it clear. But when it comes to national issues, and I am differing with their blueprint to get us out of the economic mess, I am ready to start a dual debate.
Well, why not? We'll definitely look into it and have one here. Oliver quickly reminds you or corrects you that he's never been Patriotic Front, but he was MMD. He doesn't wish to be not even in his dream.
Okay, Oliver. Oh, by the way, yeah. Oliver is a journalist. He worked for the Post. He's from our fraternity. He's a good brother of us. He loves facts and statistics, like I love facts and statistics. So again, let me not impugn anything negative on Oliver. Oliver, people have been telling me that, ban Oliver on your Facebook page. I said, way, mwala onaola debate. Because now you, the people of Zambia, who will have an informed opinion. Emmanuel Mwamba landechi, na Oliver na waleta kwa mafaksi ya feminiku government. In the end, it enriches our debate. So Oliver will never be banned on my page. Sometimes he uses strong language. I do caution him, but for me, I let his views stand. That way, our readers benefit. Because I will bring these strong allegations, and Oliver will rebut it with this information. And our people are very wise. Then they will have a fair opinion. Like Palindo, Lusaka and Dola Joe Karejwe. Our Oliver na bantu wenu na mufeluka. Under PF for $700 million, the concession period was 17 years. Imomu itwele 25 years. I have demonstrated that there's a report from RDA. You are under RDA now. Ask them to give you that report. And how it determined the revenue stream for Ndola, Lusaka, Joe Karejwe, and the projections they made. $100 million a year. You literally can pay for this road within a period of 6 to 10 years.
Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, thank you very much for having taken time. I know it was quite some short notice. We were scheduled to host the minister, by the way, but Minister Chipoka. But in the night he communicated that there is an urgent cabinet meeting that has been called for by the president. So he was unable to come. But the fact that we opted for you late and you accepted.
I hope they are not approving the Lusaka and Dola Joe Karejwe before our answers are done. Umomwikira mu cabinet bobantu bakwale sange ntungulushi. Be loyal to our country and listen to our concerns.
Yeah, but we are humbled that you accepted, at short notice, quite late in the night.
Thank you very much. I hope to be back with Honorable Noah Nkoma on Tuesday.
We'll definitely arrange that. Thanks a lot once again.